Hi, welcome to the Updating the Multimedia and ePortfolio Final Projects webinar. In this presentation, we will address a number of tips and tricks and issues to consider, as well as demo a few items from the topics addressed in the session. So, we wanted to first provide a couple of quick reminders from the multimedia project. First is that we've talked about this a number of times, but the project should be related to a topic of interest to you. It could be something that you're working on at work. It could be something for your classroom if you're a teacher. It could be a hobby or some passion project for you as well. Just something of interest to you. It doesn't necessarily have to be in your subject area, but something of interest to you. And the topic really could be almost anything. The project, as we've mentioned a number of times, should be web-based and could definitely pay attention to design and usability. So one way that we've talked about doing that is embedding players and making the interactivity of the site very almost invisible to the user. So they shouldn't have to, for example, click on a link to open up a web browser tab to watch a video or to play some audio. That should be embedded and kind of part of the actual product itself. We also mentioned that the web-based aspect of this should be CSS focused as opposed to table-based, which we did for the web shell assignment, but we've moved on from that to more appropriate web design and have, the requirement that this be a CSS based. Likewise, like with the cloud-based option, there will be a significant point deduction from the assignment grade if the website is not CSS based and it's more table based. Additionally, there's the 20% point deduction from the assignment if you use a cloud-based web editor like Wix or Weebly or Google Sites. So we're going to talk about some of these audio players and video players later on tonight. We will walk through integrating some of these, but we did want to just kind of include these here so you can go and explore later. The W3c site is a great site for accessibility. There's actually a W3 Schools site, w3schools.com, which we'll pull up a little bit later, which has some great tutorials and resources for those of you that are brand new but want to kind of get your feet wet with some coding and blending coding and WYSIWYG editing. Then there's a Google Podcast Player, which this is a nice tool. This option right here will give you some lists of different types of resources that you can use if you want to use like a series of audio. So you can have like a little player embedded in where they can select from a list of audio resources that you provide. And then Dreamweaver has both has an audio player and a video player, which we'll actually use today. And then there's some cloud-based audio players and video players. Obviously, SoundCloud is one audio tool, but there are many others. AudioBoo. There's a number of other audio tools if you want to use a cloud-based audio product. Now, those are fine to use, cloud-based audio and video. Obviously, like YouTube would be a cloud-based video tool. Those are fine, but again, for the website itself, make sure that you use your rhartshorn.com server space and use a web editor like Dreamweaver or SeaMonkey or something along those lines. And then another thing we talked about is converting narrated PowerPoints to Camtasia or exporting from the tool. Now, Camtasia is a commercial product. This is what I'm using for this particular video, but it does cost money. So there are some free screen recording options out there, but also you can export your PowerPoint. If you want to use it more like a video than an interactive PowerPoint, you can export it as a video very easily and then embed that in your particular website. You want to also consider curating existing material. So we've talked about this also throughout. Not all of the content has to be created by you. It can be something that you find online and it fits into your specific goals and objectives. Now, one thing that's very important about this is be careful with how much you use. And what I mean by that is not you could use a ton of videos and a ton of audio and other resources, web resources, etc. But be careful with providing a lot of extraneous material. So if you have a 30-minute YouTube video, but you only need a minute and a half of it, you need to constrain the use of that in there, not just say, here's a 30-minute video, watch it. And then they really only need to be paying attention to a certain portion of it. And we'll talk more about that in a few moments. Again, there must be at least 4 forms of media included, and these will be significant point deductions if this is not done. And the four easy ones that we've talked about: video, audio, graphics, and then text and hypertext together count as one, so links to web resources and that sort of thing. Then you have interactive video, hypermedia, those kind of things, which you can do as well, which would count as one. But the 4 easy ones that you can just easily include would be audio, video, graphics, and then text/hypertext. And then the total is, as you might imagine, this is a significant project in the course. It's sort of your summative project alongside the ePortfolio. So it's going to be a total of about 20% of your overall grade, or 200 points. Just some reminders of things that we've talked about throughout the course. One of the things that's very important is to maximize the benefits of specific types of media and minimizing the drawbacks. So you can use media together that allow for maximization of their benefits and minimization of others, depending on what your goals and objectives are, who your users are, and that sort of thing. So for example, if you're working with elementary children and they're new to the concepts, then probably using hypermedia and giving them a lot of learner user control is probably not the best approach. But then you also want to balance out the use of text. You don't want to give large paragraphs of text and that sort of thing. So using video, audio, and those kind of things are going to be more beneficial. However, if you're dealing with complex or advanced users of the web and media, and you want to deal with some complex topics, maybe using hypermedia is very appropriate. So anyway, we'll just run through some of the benefits and drawbacks of each real quick. Text and hypertext, very easy to produce, very accessible, very cost effective, complements other media well, so you can wrap a sentence or two around video and audio to kind of complement that. It can be presented in multiple formats, and then there's minimal equipment that's obviously necessary to create text and hypertext. The problem with it is it's simplistic. It can be pretty boring for some, particularly with large chunks of text and hypertext, and they're in lots of resources. And then the other one, a very big key issue, is this idea of getting lost in cyberspace and not having that intentionality. So if you just provide a web resource, for example, and don't provide any specific guidance and intentionality with how the users are supposed to apply that web resource, then it becomes problematic. Also, if you link to a website that has links to all kinds of other websites and aren't very focused in the guidance, then users can go clicking on those sub resources and get lost in cyberspace and kind of err from the goals and objectives of your particular site and multimedia project. Audio, again, easy, cheap to produce, reproducible. It can be very engaging and repeatable, so you can go back and listen to it over and over again. To do audio well, it can be very time intensive. It can involve some higher end equipment, but that's decreased in recent years. Cost and quality of audio equipment has increased. The cost has decreased, the quality has increased. There can be technical issues, so it does take time to learn how to do audio well. Editing audio and bringing in other effects and things like that can be problematic and time consuming. And then it can be expensive, but again, as I mentioned, that's become less of an issue in recent years. Video is great for developing higher order thinking skills. Great for role playing and adding in developing interpersonal skills. It can be engaging. It's also very useful to present topics, particularly complex topics, from multiple perspectives. It can be very useful for promoting critical viewing, so watching a video and then like commenting on it, criticizing it, finding out what's good, bad, etc. And then it's also really good for making abstract topics more concrete. And then some of the issues with audio, this should say similar to video. I don't know why it didn't change, but it's just similar to audio. The whole idea of time intensive, the equipment, technical issues, and can be expensive. So those same kind of issues arise with the use of video. With graphics, it's great for stimulating creativity, can be engaging and motivating and very accessible. We've talked about the benefits of using graphics in a number of modules and items in this course. So you want to address the visual principles and those sorts of things. Graphics, the age appropriateness issue, so balancing out what is age appropriate with the graphics. Being sure to provide appropriate context for graphics. Sometimes they can be difficult to develop. You all saw Photoshop. It's a very, very robust and powerful tool, but it takes time to learn. So there are some issues with the actual technicality of graphics. And the equipment sometimes can be expensive, particularly if you're doing like photographs and that sort of thing. So high quality photographs can be, the equipment for those can be rather expensive. And then the making relevant graphics. So this idea of using graphics to make a website or product more engaging, but making sure those graphics are relevant to the concepts and not just add-ons. And a lot of times when individuals use graphics in the multimedia project, for example, they need to be, it's very important that you are cognizant of the relevance of those to the actual goals and objectives of your product. And then hypermedia and interactive multimedia. This is, again, very engaging, motivating. It increases user control. They're more involved with the site. It can be very flexible, and you can really control the amount of user control depending on your audience. So you can really be flexible with how that is actually done. And then it's great for developing creative and critical thinking skills. The issues I've kind of touched on earlier, learnerability, so aligning the learner experience with the web, interacting with the media and the content, with how much user control they have. So the idea of that aligning learner activity with their ability. And then there are those navigational and experiential issues, which you've kind of talked about as well. And then the novelty effect, and that's that essentially the newness of it is really, users tend to get engaged with the product and the tool itself, but less so with the content. And that wears off, that novelty effect wears off relatively quickly, but it is something to be cognizant of, at least initially. So what are some tips for success when completing your multimedia project? First, make sure you are clear in every aspect of it. So the content, you introduce the content, why it's important, why users are here, why they're interacting with this. You're providing the navigation throughout is clear, both the navigation menu, but even the links within your content. They're very clear on how they're supposed to be used, why they're important, etc. So one of the key points and one of the things that we've seen in the past that result in point deductions and lower quality multimedia projects is this lack of guidance. So it's really critical for you to provide a thorough amount of guidance when you are putting together your multimedia project. At no point should the user go, okay, what am I supposed to do next? It should be very clear what they're supposed to do, how they're supposed to interact with the content on the pages. And again, context matters. So kind of that idea of letting the user know why they're here, why it's important, and not just at the beginning, here's a quick introduction. No, you want to make sure that context is revisited throughout your product. So being very clear with the context throughout is going to be very, very important. And that's another issue that results in reduced grades and lower quality multimedia assignments. Again, pay attention to design and usability, so the consistency issue, the repetition, alignment, proximity issues, the little embedding, the little things, graphics being relatively the same size. I mean, obviously it depends on how they're being used, but you want them to be relatively the same size. and all the other design and usability issues we've talked about throughout the course. Be thorough. Again, you want to keep it simple. This is not you don't want to be, this to be a huge, long module of content or anything, but you do want to be thorough in the small pieces and chunks of information that you are providing. And then the idea we've talked about a number of times already in this presentation, the idea of being intentional. So as the user is moving through your site, there should be no question as to how what they are doing helps them accomplish the goals and objectives of the tool. So having that guidance, having that context, all of that kind of aligns with this idea of being very intentional. Do not provide a list of resources without very structured guidance. So one thing we do not want to see is a list of websites and like, here's a bunch of resources on this topic. No, we need to see that any web resources or video resources or audio resources, there's a clear structure around those to allow to inform the user of how to use those. And it doesn't have to be extreme. It doesn't have to be a very like, here's step 1, here's step 2, here's step 3. It can be implied in the structure of the content, but it should at any point, if we are going through the assignment and asking ourselves, what should we be doing here? Why is this related to the goal and blah, 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 then that's going to be a problem. So make sure that you have this very structured guidance there. Fill in the gaps with existing resources or extant resources. So again, if you have in the need for other resources, you can definitely use those to address any gaps in what you're trying to do. One of the things with these, typically you're going to want to use your content to kind of set the stage, but then have the other resources kind of fill in those gaps. And that's kind of what we're talking about here. And then keep it simple. So we talked about the idea of being thorough, but we also want to keep this a relatively compact kind of assignment. We want you really to focus more on providing a good, small example of how to use media, an illustration of using media to address a topic or concept. So that's really the focus, not on addressing 10 million objectives. So try to keep it relatively compact in that regard. And then make sure that the content, the presentation, and the technologies play well together. And this is kind of one of the things that we've talked about in a lot of the checklists and rubrics throughout the course, is this idea of the content, the presentation, and the technologies. Do they make sense? And so we're going to be looking at that throughout. Like, does it make sense to present this particular content in this manner? For example, if you have a list of web resources and URLs and you're presenting them via audio, that doesn't make sense. So you want to, you would want to have those as text on the website, etc. You're not going to have, here's my top 10 websites of blah blah blah, www. Whatever. So you want to have that where it's visual, they can see it, they can actually maybe click off of it, go to it, visit it, etc. So that's pretty much it for the multimedia project. We'll look at some other things, some exemplars. Because I'm doing this marked video, I'm going to do the presentation first and then revisit the exemplars of that in a little bit. So with the walkthrough there. So we'll kind of, you'll see this is being presented a little bit differently, but so it's easier to kind of revisit various aspects of it later. So just for the ePortfolio, just kind of some reminders. You have 5 pages: the index, projects, links, readings, coursework, and resume page. If you want to do a different page from the links, readings, you just need to reach out to us and provide what you would like to include in that page, and then we can modify the assessment based on that. But you need to do that beforehand and not just submit that to us as a new page without us having approved it ahead of time. Some things that you're going to want to collect ahead of time and work on, and much like your multimedia project, you want to kind of do these collect these things, many of these as well for that. But put all of your projects, and so for the multimedia project, you would put your media in a central location. So like in a folder, a projects folder in your ePortfolio folder. So if I look here, for example, in my see, in my ePortfolio, I have all of my projects already collected there. So those are things later on today I'm going to demonstrate linking to. You want to have your resume and your CV in a central location. You're going to want to have screenshots of your projects. So go ahead and take screenshots of those. You can use Snagit, print screen, and crop if you're on a PC, or there's a ton of PC-based free softwares you can download. And then for a Mac, you would just do Apple Shift 4 and then screenshot there, or put your cursor over what you want, drag it over the area that you want to take a screenshot of, and then you just embed those for the projects page. And then be sure you embed your projects when it makes sense. So your audio project, you're going to want to embed it. Your PowerPoint, you may want to embed it if you converted it to a video. The web shell project, you're just going to link to it, etc. And then for your links readings page, you want to go ahead and collect, what were some helpful links that you've had in this course, and then what are some seminal readings or some readings you want to include. So maybe collecting citation information, etc. One thing I will say about this, and I'll repeat it a couple times, but make sure that you have at least 3 links and at least 3 readings for your links readings page. And they can be readings and links from this course, other courses, just in general, really up to you what you use, but you must have a total of 6 resources there. We'll get into this a little bit more later. Go ahead and collect other images you might be including. So if you're going to include an image of yourself or whatever, go ahead and do that as well. And then a list of your coursework. So you want to have your transcripts maybe. And for your coursework page, we only need your graduate coursework. So you might put like your BA in elementary education in 2021, and then since then put your by semester what courses you've taken and brief descriptions, who the instructor is, that sort of stuff. So what should be involved on each page? So across all of the pages, you're going to want to include, there must be at least 1 image. You must follow effective design. There must be an email link. And those are on all of your pages, all 5 pages. The image is obvious, it needs to be at least 1, and then the email link, and that's very easy to do. You can have a contact button in your navigation menu, etc. On the index page, you're going to want to provide your name and email, obviously, and then an introduction of yourself, the assignment, whatever, however you want to do it. Hi, this is welcome to my ePortfolio. I'm currently a first-year student in the e-learning track of the instructional design, whatever. But you might want to include a picture of yourself or something like that as well. For the projects page, you're going to link to the multimedia project, so your final multimedia project, your graphics layout project, your audio project, and then you may also want to include your web shell, but that's up to you. Particularly if you started out with maybe little to no experience with web authoring and you did a table-based design and you want to kind of show growth. So you might show your web shell and then your multimedia project separately. Provide some screenshots and brief descriptions for those. Make sure you have those. Embed when appropriate, so I've already kind of talked about that. And then make sure you include the screenshots using Snagit, Apple Shift 4 for Mac, or whatever. There's a variety of ways you can get screenshots of the images. Do not put just generic images for your projects. That will result in point deductions. And then for your links readings, we've talked about this, a list of at least 3 web resources and at least 3 seminal readings or readings of some sort. They don't necessarily have to be seminal readings, but helpful readings. You want to use some sort of consistent formatting. It doesn't have to be APA, but I would recommend it because you will be doing APA for various courses and also on your comprehensive exams if you're in the master's program, the ID&T master's program. So it's always good to kind of get used to that. And then provide brief annotations, 1 to 2 sentences on the links and readings, why they're useful, etc. And then again, at least 3 readings and at least 3 resources. So a total minimum of 6. And that's something that students tend to misinterpret sometimes. So I want to be very, very clear. At least 6 total resources, 3 links, 3 readings. Okay, for the coursework, you want to provide a list of courses and descriptions. You can use the catalog descriptions, or you can just provide your own brief description. Separate them by term. My recommendation would be most recent at the top and down to less recent, least recent last as you move down. And then really all we care about is your graduate coursework. So you may want to put, when you got your undergraduate degree, and then below that start with your information on. You can even put where you got your undergraduate degree, when you got it, and what it was at the bottom, and then kind of move up from there. And how detailed you get with this is really up to you, but having some description and etc. is going to be useful. And then for your resume and your CV, you need a web version, so it needs to be actually fitting in with the design of your website. So the entire website needs to, the entire resume page shouldn't just be a Word document saved as a web page and just like a kind of white document with text on it. It needs to be part of the design of your, following the same design as your site, and then have links to a PDF and or a Word version of it as well. And we'll exemplify it. We've done this a little bit already, but I'll do that as well in a little bit later. And then, so that is all for kind of the tips and tricks. So I did want to kind of revisit a couple of items here and in some demos, and we will kind of walk through what I mean with some of these things and also highlight a few other elements. But if you do have any questions at any point for the remainder of the course, we are going to have a Q&A later in the course, but you can also reach out to either of us to schedule a one-on-one kind of walkthrough or answer any questions you have. Just reach out to either of us for that and we can set that up. So obviously in the course materials is the description of the multimedia project. We presented this early in the course and we did the multimedia project shell. We've done a previous website on updating the HTML or the website style using CSS as opposed to the initial table base, which we addressed to present the concept. But we did want to highlight a new checklist for the multimedia project. And if you look here, you can see that there are issues associated with context. Typically, you see in the other assignments that we've had this design and usability concepts that are rated. So there are a number of design and usability issues here. There's also the use of media. So previously, the individual pieces of media were solo, so we didn't need to address whether the media fit well and those sorts of things. So at least to the extent that we do here, obviously in the previous issues we did look at, did you use audio appropriately, did you use graphics appropriately, those sorts of things. So the use of media is a key concept here. Then the idea of intentionality, which we talked about a number of times earlier today in this presentation, and then the presentation and quality issues. So this will be a nice little guide for you as you're moving through. If you do have any questions on any of these concepts or issues, feel free to reach out to either of us. As with the multimedia project, we also have the description of the ePortfolio, which was also presented early in the course, individual pages that are needed, and then the evaluation form or checklist. Here you can go through this on your own, but we have the various miscellaneous components, the index page components, the projects page components, the links readings page components, the coursework page components, and the resume or Vita components for a total of 100 points. Again, if you have questions on any of these, feel free to reach out to either of us. Next, we want to address the issue of updating your multimedia project and potentially your ePortfolio project website using the CSS-based templates or the dynamic web templates as well. So what I've done here is, as previously we had our web shell folder, I've collected media. That's one of the tips that I gave earlier, to put all your media in a central location. And then we have our old ePortfolio website. which we can continue with, and we will do that a little bit. But we also, I've also downloaded a couple others. So what I did is I went to the resources in the course materials for free web templates, and I looked up some responsive or dynamic HTML, as well as just the basic CSS folder. So this corporate one folder here, you'll notice it has, I've gone ahead and pulled in my media. I've pulled in some images from my website before, so I can use these however I want. And I just downloaded the zip file and unzipped it. So that's what this corporate folder is right now. If I want to use this as my multimedia project, what I might do is just call it Multimedia and just move forward from there. So now I've already, like I said, I have my images in there, I have my media. This JavaScript, this JS folder, we're not going to mess with. That's a lot of behind the scenes. You see here you have your bootstrap and all those things. Y'all don't really need to worry about those. The fonts and then the CSS here as well. So just like our last project, what we'll do is we'll open up our index folder page, in Dreamweaver and modify accordingly. So right now it's currently not in Dreamweaver, obviously, but I wanted to kind of show what this looks like. So my navigation pages are about products and services, and we can then modify from there. So let's just go ahead and take a look at that. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go to my Full Files tab, and I have multimedia here that I just put in there. And I'm going to go ahead and open the index page, and then I'm just going to go ahead and start modifying content that I want. So let's do a site on bad design. And then here I might have something, the best way to improve design skills is by looking at bad design. And then I might make this engage now active, or I may just delete it. I don't really want that there. And then I'm just going to kind of scroll down, and you see content here. As we did before, this right here is, we can look at our CSS designer, and we can select various aspects of this. So this right here is our article div. I can also do a split code here. So here you can see that this right here, we can look at the code here and decide whether we want this or not. We can modify it. I'm going to go ahead and delete this because I don't really need these tiny things. So I'm going to just click on this, delete, click on this, delete, click on this, delete. And then here I might have some content, and then maybe some footer content here. So I might just simply click on this, delete it, click on this, delete it. But I may keep this one here and just increase. So this is the div. Let's see what the name of it is. We click on this little thing here. Let's see. Div.call. So we can call SM4. So I can go up here and let's see, div. Let's see if we can go SM4. Let's see, a column is SM4 footer. So let's see what we can, if we can play around with this, look at the properties of it, and let's see the width is 33.33%. We can make it the same as this right here, column LG2. So let's see what that one is. Okay. So we can look at this as 100%. So all we're going to do here is click back on this, go back to our call SM4, see it when it's selected here, it shows up down here. So I'm just going to go here and do call SM4, double click on it, and change this from 33 to 100%. And now it's nice and the same width there. And you can kind of play around with it, but I don't want this procrastinate button doesn't really have any use for what I'm doing, so I'm going to just delete that. And then maybe I just put some footer information here, blah, 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 and then more footer stuff, whatever y'all want to put there. Then I'm going to go, put some context up here. So since I'm kind of updating my multimedia project, I might just go to my web shell, open the index page, for example, and just kind of copy this. I know this is just lorem ipsum text, but the gist of it kind of, the idea is that I'm just copying, I'm updating my website here, and then I'll just go ahead and do that make modifications to the rest of the content. So here I would simply, let me go ahead and pull up my my properties tab window. Okay, here I highlight, this is obviously the navigation tab area. So I like to go to the split view, and you can see the navigation links down here. You can highlight these particular items here. You can change your logo, but you can really go in and modify these based on all of the information you have. So like if I go to services here, you can see that this right here says, oops, these are some sub menus here. So this is a drop down menu. So if I go here real quickly to my live view, you can see that services has this drop down toggle, and within that there's some other options. So I may or may not want that to occur, but if I go to design view here and I highlight this let me go to my split, you can see that these drop down menus are engage, pontification, and synergize. So if I wanted to actually use the drop down menu, that would be a nice little tool to kind of do that. I could also click here on products. You can see that, let's just say, for example, this right here is page2.html. We'll just call it page 2. So we're just modifying the website based on our updated content. Now, obviously, we don't have a page 2 in the multimedia folder yet. We would have to create all of that, etc. We're not going to get into that. We've done that before. No need to really revisit that. But I did want to talk about updating some stuff by adding in media. So here we have some introduction text to the media, and then maybe we have an audio podcast here. So we want to make this as usable and user-friendly as we can. So I'm going to insert my audio. So if I simply go to insert, and you scroll down a bit, we have our video, HTML video, which we'll look at. I can insert some canvas, some animated composition, some flash, which we're not going to. We're going to select HTML5. Now if I go to my properties window, it asks for the source here. So I simply click on the source tab and I find demo narration 3. I click open. The title, I could say, bad design audio or something like that. And I'm good to go. So now if I go to my design view or my live view, you see this nice little player here with the audio there. Obviously it says 0 because it's not active yet, but that's one way we would do that. And then if we want to add a video in, we could do the same thing. We could simply go to insert and go to video, HTML5 video, double click. And again, we go to our source, click on that. We go to our media folder, which is in our multimedia folder. So we make sure we select the correct one and select that. And we might want to give it a title here, etc. I can constrain the size of it. So maybe I want to make it 250 by 250 here, and it's good to go. So now if I go to my live view here, I can see the audio player, the video player, and then I can move on. So I'll just save this. And it changed my CSS, so I'm definitely and that's because I changed the width of that one particular div. So I want to definitely change that. And you're not going to worry about these JS's ones. We haven't gotten into JavaScript. We're not going to mess with those. But if I did want to modify other things, so I do like this bad design, the green on the green. It's kind of nice. But maybe I wanted to change the color of this. Well, I would just highlight that. Say we see here it's H1 page header. So then I just go to my CSS designer and go H1. And then I can go in here and modify the properties of it. I could change the color, I could change the size, make it 1 EM. And it's like a page header, so H1, let's see it, go to .page header. Let me just go here and go to page header here. Maybe change the color to like a blue. Let's see. So you can kind of play around with these as much as you want here. And we've done this before, but I did want to kind of highlight that. Then there's some other ways of doing audio as well. So let me go back to my design view. Let's say I wanted to embed some cloud-based audio or video. So I have some here. One tool that you can use for that is the SoundCloud, but there's Audio Boo. There's a number of other cloud-based. And it's very similar to what we've done before with YouTube. So I just simply click here and share it, and I go to the embed link there and I just copy it and then go back to this, find where I want it. This is some audio, cloud-based. Click here and then I highlight this, find this in my let me see if I can find this in my that's ugly. Let me go back to live view. Let me go to design view. Let me click here, go to split view and find my cursor. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm on the bootstrap thing. So let me go to my source code here, highlight this, go to my cursor. I want it to be below that. So just go into the audio and paste it. And I have my audio here. Obviously, I can click on this, go to my properties window, and it doesn't show it here, but I can go here into the code and I'm going to make it 50%, and I'm going to make it just 100 pixels high. And you can see it immediately changes the code, the size of it there. So this is a nice little cloud-based tool that you can do. And if I go to my live view, kind of scroll down here, you can see it's nice and smaller. You can make it smaller, you can make it bigger. You want it to fit into the design of your page. And then the last thing we'll do with this, before I'm going to touch on a few other things, but we can go here and if we want to insert some video from other sources, I'm just going to click here. I'm going to select this 10 tips. I am going to share it just like I did before, embed. And here, a couple things. You can see the height and the width are there. I can modify those. Another thing you can do is you can say start at, and let's say we wanted them to start at, let's say 45 seconds. So I'm constraining how they use it. I'm going to click that. I'm going to copy the code. It copies it. Then I'm going to simply go to Dreamweaver. Go back to my tool in Dreamweaver. Go to design view, go below and then this is a video. And I'm just going to highlight this, find out where this is in the code, go down there, paste. Maybe I'm going to make this, maybe make it half size. So I'm going to make it 280 by 157, just so it's a little more constrained in size. Now I can maybe go up here and do this, make this 280 by 157, so it kind of aligns with the size. So we have the same size of the videos there for the kind of consistency approach there. So if I go back to live view, I have all these items here. They're nice and neat, easy to go, and easy to, now they're all embedded. The players, people can just go in and click play. And then I would just update the pages as I am done. And this is a nice template. I didn't make any significant changes. I'm just going to go through and save all. And when I save all, it changes all the CSS changes I made and all of that. Obviously, this is a brand new site, so I would need to go through, change the page titles. So the document title down here on all the pages, I would need to change the navigation up here, and then I would need to modify all of the CSS to whatever I wanted it to be. But I'm done with that multimedia page, and then I'm going to wait to upload it later. But let's say I wanted to modify this. So my multimedia project is updated. Then I have my ePortfolio, but I don't like this particular template. So I want to change my template from this to something else. So I look here, and I've kind of downloaded this HTML5. So, and this is a dynamic HTML site. So if I click on this, let's just see what it looks like. Okay, so I have this header here that I can, put some content there. Then I have this information. I might put a picture of me right here, an introduction here. I have my pages here. I can add pages if I want. I may or may not want these items. I may or may not want these items. I would just go through and modify what I wanted or not. So if this was something that you liked, then I would just go real quickly into HTML5 seller. Maybe we'll just call it ePort. And then I would just, so ePort, where's that? Go in here. I'm going to get rid of this zip file here, just delete that. Where's ePort? Okay, so, but what I would do here is simply go in and modify these in Dreamweaver or whatever, just like I did before. So one thing I would recommend is making changes to file names and folder names in the actual folder and not in Dreamweaver, because then these links to images and stuff that are already made will then kind of remain consistent. So I'm not going to go into this one just because we've done this, but this is one that's responsive. Like I said, it will change the view automatically, whether it's viewed on a laptop, a desktop, a tablet, or a phone. So that's a really nice feature. People get different views based on that. They get the same content, but the structure of the site is automatically updated based on that. Now, a couple things that I did want to touch on. One is an HTML video player. And so if you're linking to a video, but you're using something like SeaMonkey that doesn't have that insert HTML5 player, you can use W3schools.com, go down to their HTML video. You can just copy this right here, essentially, and just change the source here to what your movie source is, and it will embed a player like this. So you'll get this kind of almost YouTube-y like player on your site. You can also do that with audio. So if I go to audio here, you can do the audio controls, copy this, and just change the source to what your MP3 is, and you're good to go there. This is a great tool, W3c Schools. If you're interested in learning a little bit about some code, you can go here, and it gives you a little description. It gives you an example, and then it allows you to try yourself. And it shows you what it looks like. You can play around with stuff and really modify it yourself. It gets into JavaScript, so you can learn a lot about what these items are. It gets into CSS, so if you're curious about positioning or floating or any of these concepts that are really beyond the scope of this course just for simply time's sake, you can really get in here and start playing around with the height and width and how to do comments and these sorts of things. So W3 Schools is just a great tool, as I said, for allowing you to kind of practice some of these things if that's something you're interested in. You don't need to be a wizard with coding, but it is useful to have some basics so you really can get kind of all of that. You can really modify and adjust your HTML to very specific specifications. Okay, so one thing I did want to highlight. So now we're not done here. We haven't really uploaded anything. So I do want to upload my new site. So I'm going to click on that. There's ePort now. So I could go in very quickly and start modifying this. So maybe put my banner image there. So if I click here, go find my. I'm going to find my banner image. Where is it? And I would go in and maybe pull in some images from the other ePortfolio. Let me see if let me cancel this. Let me go to my other just a quick example. ePortfolio, images, where's my banner? There we go. Copy this, go into my ePort, go into images, paste that, then go here. Click here, go to my source, click on the banner image here. I can see there we go. And then I can just kind of play around with the pixel size here if I want, maybe change the height to 50. Let's make it 90. So you can kind of play around with some kind of the similar things that we did before with the ePortfolio. Put your name, whatever. And then you can kind of go here and figure out what you want. This is your navigation. It looks different, obviously, because of the type of site it is, but you can very quickly and easily go here and change this, introduction, this, make this projects. And you see here, if I go to my split view, you can see that active, the introduction page is active here. So when I save this as projects, I would want to move this to the projects page when I'm on that one. And on the, let's say this would be coursework. And this right here would be readings or whatever. So you would just make those active because you would have to go through and do file save. This one's index. And then do file save as, and then just save it as projects. Once you got it looking like you wanted it to look, and then you would go in and modify, as we did before. So kind of playing around with a little bit of the code there is really useful to get you kind of on the right track here. So just if we looked at what we did so far, not a lot there, but it's kind of a decent little pick. My name, might put a picture of me here. You can see the pages here have all changed into what they would need to be. I would need to make those links. Obviously go in right here, go in here and change this to ePortfolio, etc. So then I'm just going to save it. Then I go, now that I've made a couple changes, obviously not everything, I haven't done everything yet, but I want to see what it looks like. So I simply select the site because I've made a bunch of changes, click on the click entire site. It's going to take a few minutes, but let's go ahead and pull up some of these. So this is going yes to all. So this is going to be rhartshorn.com, fall 2023, Marsh Hartshorn. If we wanted to look at ePort first, we could just go ePort/index.html. You see it's made, obviously that's a terrible picture, but it's made the changes that we did there. We could go to Multimedia, see what we did there. Yep, bad design. You can see the sample audio here, the sample video. These haven't uploaded yet. That's the problem. They're there. It's just still working on it. So that's why they're at 0, but once that's uploaded, they will be the actual times. I could play this, test those. They work fine. It's just working, so it's a little slow. but y'all get the gist of it. So obviously we're not going to just slap these items on there. We want to address context, intentionality, guidance, but these are really easy, not really easy, but much easier to create. Since these templates are already there, it's not that difficult to modify those templates and make them your own. Now, one thing I will say is if you do not have Dreamweaver, all of this can also be done in SeaMonkey. So if I just go to File, New Composer page, open SeaMonkey, and I can open an existing page. So let's just say I did the ePortfolio. Well, that's the old ePortfolio. Let me just say I did my, let's just look at Multimedia. Select the index page because that's the only one I have here. So you can see now that they're uploaded. So we have 222, 2609. Anything I wanted to modify, I can just go in and start modifying. So here it says about the link location. I'm just going to call it page 1.html. Click OK. Maybe go up here, change the text to let me edit that. Page 1 and click on page 2 here, highlight this. So it's we already did that in Dreamweaver. For the services, I could kind of play around with these as well. I'm not going to do that here. But then once I'm done making any changes here, I could also, again, I can highlight things. One of the things that's different here is when I highlight this, I can go to the HTML tags, I can do a preview, or I can do the source, but it doesn't really have a split view for me. But it does, I can go to the CSS if I go to insert or edit the CSS, just like we did last time when we played around with the CSS of the actual tool. So we can go in and really modify the CSS or the using the CSS toolbar, or we can do it in the actual code, depending on our preference. Now, once we make changes to that, now I'm not a big fan of the FTP tool within SeaMonkey, so I recommend opening CyberDuck and just open a connection. Okay, and let's say I changed any of these folders. Let's say I changed ePort. I would simply just go over here, drag it in outside of that, and it's going to say this already exists. What do you want to do? I'm going to skip it because it's just going to upload everything again. We're just going to skip it. And so that's how I would simply upload using that tool. So if you're using SeaMonkey, then simply use CyberDuck as your tool. That's all for this session. If you have questions, reach out to either of us. We are happy to help. I would definitely review the checklist for the multimedia project and the ePortfolio that have been provided. And on Tuesday of next week, there will be a webinar in which we address any questions you have, but we are welcome to meet with you, or we are happy to meet with you outside of those sessions. So you just have to reach out to us and let us know if you have any questions or thoughts or concerns about the project. Thank you very much.